All right, y'all, welcome back and happy Monday. It's Mississippi State week. Hopefully, we can get our first SEC win of the season, especially on the road. I think that would be a big deal. Tennessee tends to struggle with Mississippi State and Arkansas, especially on the road for whatever reason. So it's not a game that I think we should be taking lightly. I hope that we're not taking it lightly. They can do some good things. We're going to start off with the matchup of their offense versus our defense. I think most people are probably worried about this as Tennessee fans, but I'm going to show you why. It's not so much about the passing game for me. It's not so much about our passing defense, more about our run stopping defense that I'd be kind of worried about. We'll talk about that here with the stats. Of course, we're going to break down the entire matchup from top to bottom. Y'all, please do us a favor, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. And also, man, Tennessee just got a great draw with our rivals for the next 4 years, Alabama, Kentucky, and Vandy. Come on, listen, we've been living well, okay? We've been living the right way, obviously, for us to be blessed. That highly. That is unbelievable. That's what most people thought that we'd get. But yeah, we should be able to pretty much dominate, I think, the SEC for years to come. But at the same time, I do expect that SEC schedule next year is going to be very, very tough. All the big boys. I think the Tennessee is going to get everybody. So we'll, talk about that maybe in a different video. But with all that being said, starting off with the box score, this is from PFF. Everything inside of this column here, that's all the team stuff. Over here, it's the offensive stuff. And up top is going to be the rushing numbers. And then under that's going to be the passing numbers. Over here is going to be special teams. So I want to point out just a couple of things here. Number one, this is the exact same offense. Mississippi State runs the same offense that Coach Heupel does. Coach Levy, he learned from Coach Heupel, right? And they run it more the way that we ran it last season. We know that there were some issues with it. We talked about that several times for a long time. Very proud of Coach Heupel for going out and changing some things within our system. It looks a lot better now. It's pretty easy to stop this offense, right? It can be deadly if you don't know how to stop it. Pretty much how teams have stopped Tennessee is, man, just play a whole bunch of people deep, 4 or 5 players deep, pre-snap, and then post-snap, you come down, put some extra people inside of the box, slows down that running game, which is always going to be first and foremost. But then it also messes with how this offense wants to throw the football down the field. It limits that. It makes them have to throw it short and to the outside. So we'll talk about that some more as well. But just looking at these rushing numbers, Mississippi State ran the football 33 times versus last year, and we ran it 55 times. I think part of the reason that we ran the football so much is because we wanted to try to hide how you stop this, offense, right? Which I don't even know why at this point, because everyone already knew. We knew that people had already figured it out. So that's just Coach Heupel being Coach Heupel. But what really worries you is they were averaging 6.2 yards per carry. That is a lot, okay? That's just the net rushing yards. And some of it might have been from their quarterback, right? They had a quarterback that was a lot more mobile than their quarterback this season, even though he is kind of mobile. We'll talk about him as well. And then they also had 8 rushes of 10-plus yards, which is obviously that is way too much. So that's why I'm more worried about that. Now, if you come down to the passing numbers, Mississippi State passed the football 31 times. Tennessee only passed it 22 times. And you can see what they did just as far as, you know what I'm saying, the yards and all that. We really limited what they did. Most of that was just from the pressure. We'll talk about that as well. But they only hit on 10 passes. So great job by our passing defense. Really, it was a great job by the pressure that we were able to generate. So let's go on ahead and let's take a look at how the game looks on paper from a talent standpoint. Got these numbers from 24/7 Sports. All right. So, yes, Tennessee is the more talented team from top to bottom. But Mississippi State, man, they have more talent this year than they did last season. They've got 11 players on offense that are blue chip caliber. The 5-star quarterback, he's not going to be probably playing in this game, but I think that Blake Shapen, as a veteran guy, he can do some nice things. Now, let's talk about the stats so far this season for their offense and our defense. You can see that they're winning in most of these categories. Now, the first thing that I will point out is that Tennessee's doing a better job of generating sacks than Mississippi State is of kind of slowing the sacks down. And also, let me talk about this. Strength of schedule is going to be on top of each of these teams. Mississippi State is at number 106 in the country, which is dead last in the SEC so far this year. Tennessee's at number 45, which I think would put us in the SEC somewhere around 4 or 5, something like that, right? Either way, we've played much tougher competition. I think that everyone knows that. The only team that Mississippi State's played is Arizona State, who is a pretty good football team, but they're nothing they would be probably at the very, very bottom of the SEC. So everything's always going to be relative. But the first thing, like I said, I think that Tennessee can find some success in generating sacks in this game. That's going to be a huge, huge deal. Now let's talk about the passing numbers. Mississippi State's passing offense is only ranked number 64 in the country. Some people might be shocked at that, but it just goes back to what we said to start things off, that this offense, you can stop it. And actually, I was watching their game, last week versus NIU, who is nowhere near the level of talent that Mississippi State has, but they were able to slow them down with passing the football. And if you look at the first drive, I think Mississippi State tried to pass on maybe 3 or 4 of like their first plays or something. Quarterback had to run some, but they ended up scoring on that drive. But they couldn't throw the football down the field. In NIU, all they did was just play a bunch of people deep, right? They switched some things up a little bit as the game kind of like wore on, but I think that's the main way that you stop an offense that runs a bunch of choice routes. If there's nothing open deep, then they have to run underneath stuff. Just come up and tackle. It's going to be a big game for our players out in space. Have to be able to get off blocks, have to be able to tackle, so on and so forth. But outside of that, something else that I'll point to is like with their red zone offense, it's tied for first place in the entire country, and they're scoring every time they hit the red zone. I think that we should be better in the red zone versus their offense because it's tougher to operate like with this style of offense once you get down there, just because the field shrinks up so much. So it takes away all of the, hey, we're stretching you out wide, stretching you out vertically. Now, Mississippi State will run some tighter splits and all of that. They've been doing that since last season. It's pretty much the exact same offense that they had last year. But I just wanted to point out those few things. And now let's turn the page and let's talk about their 5 key players. We do this every single week. We can only pick 5, but they've got some guys who can do some good things. And y'all take a mental snapshot of this because we're going to go ahead, jump inside this film room and break down these players' games. So number 1 is going to be their quarterback, Blake Shapen. He's 6'1", 210 pounds. He is a graduate, so he is a veteran. He's 67 for 100 passes on the year, obviously 67%, 884 yards, 7 passing touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and he's carried the football 31 times for 71 yards, 2.3 yards per carry. He's a guy that can use his legs. It's not going to be anything like what we saw last year. Blake Shapen was a quarterback on their roster, but the other guy, he was starting, and I don't remember was Blake Shapen hurt or what, but either way, the other guy, he was a much better athlete. Blake Shapen, he can do some things, but I would be more concerned about his arm down the field. He's got a pretty big arm. I think he could probably throw the football about 60, 65 yards. It's not super, super strong because you can throw it, 60, 65 yards. It takes it a while to get there. Or you can throw it 60, 65 yards and it gets there right now. That's the super, like super talented arms. But either way, he can do some good things. There's going to be a lot of emphasis from my standpoint on how are we going to play him? Are we going to play him more straight up like we did last year, where we ran a lot of cover 3, cover 1, some quarters coverage? Or are we going to run more quarters coverage and keep everybody deep? Are we going to mix and match, put in some more maybe secondary players, which we don't really have too many of those right now, but put in some more secondary players and just try to like keep them from throwing the football down the field? I would love to see us try that because we know for sure that will work. Now, wide receiver, number 3, Anthony Evans III. Okay, he's up under 6 feet tall on the season. He's leading the team in catches with 21. He has 290 yards, 13.8 yards per catch with 2 touchdowns. He's a good-looking athlete. He can run, very fast, obviously. He runs good routes. The switch routes is something that I'm a little bit worried about. But like I said, if you're keeping the players deep, if you're not making them come up to the line of scrimmage and press and all of that, and you say, hey, look, this is your area. If they're guarding more of like an area and not so much of a man, or maybe more of a man and less of an area, I don't know. Whatever works the best for us. If we can do that, then I think that we can limit what they want to do down the field. So again, it's mostly just going to be about the scheme that we want to implement in this game. But they have some guys who can go. So the next one is going to be wide receiver number 0, Brennan Thompson. And he is a senior, 5'9", 170. They have smaller wide receivers, but they can most definitely run. So he has 17 catches for 291 yards, 17.1 yards per catch, and 3 touchdowns on the season. He's leading the team in pass catching touchdowns. This is another one. Obviously, you just got to watch these guys. Now, with this type of an offense, which we'll talk about a little bit more in just a second, with the choice routes, it's typically half-field reads. So what I noticed from our defense last year is if we weren't on the side that the offense was actually working, we would cheat over. Is that going to be a problem in this game? Is this something that maybe Mississippi State wants to break the tendencies in their own offense to try to throw it to the opposite side sometimes? That is possible. It's not really how the offense is supposed to work, but we'll see. Now, like we talked about, the running game is what probably, I'm not even going to say concerns me the most, but that's what we need to probably try to stop first. They've got a big old running back. Okay, his name is Fluff Bothwell, 5'10", 230. He's just a sophomore, but he's starting over a guy that's a veteran. I like that Coach Levy's doing that. Lets me know that he does get it. So having a guy that can be that big, who I think does a good job of just getting downhill. They're going to run a ton of inside zone. They'll run some power, a little bit of outside zone, so on and so forth. You'll see some counter, all those types of things. But having a guy that's that big, that's, as big as our linebackers who can just get downhill versus a lighter box, that could be a little bit of a problem. So linebackers need to have a good game. The front 4 needs to have a very good game. Now, let's talk about the other running back who we saw last season, and his name is David Booth, 5'10", 205. And, he is an older player. He's got good speed. I think both of them have pretty good speed, not as big. But, yeah, it's pretty much the same thing. We've got to be able to close up on those running lanes, which we'll take a look at here in just a second. But we have to do a very good job of that with our linebackers and also with our safeties, star players too, right? Like everyone's just got to get to your fits. If you can do that, and maybe like win the line of scrimmage, you don't have to actually kill people, but if you can just take up those gaps, you're going to slow down how they like to run the football. So hopefully, Coach Banks has a good game plan dialed up. Now, let's take a look at their running game versus our defense last season. These are all of their like big plays of 10 plus yards running the football. You can see that it's really just us missing our run fits, and you might not really know what that means. It's just basically about everyone has a certain gap. They have a certain area that they have to, hey, make sure if the ball comes here, this is my area. So I have to make that stop. So we didn't do the best job of that on every play last season. Our linebackers really, they were running around crazy. There was a couple of them where it just looked terrible. But I think that we'll be better with that this season. Safeties, this is a big game for them as well. And you can see it here. I mean, if you miss the daggone run fit, they can go to the house because they have that good speed. It's just like, Tennessee's system, a lot of downhill running straight at the teeth of the defense. Our defensive tackles need to take a step forward. I think Jackson Moore comes back this weekend. Not sure about Hobbs, but let's talk about this passing game. So you're going to see here all this 10 passes that they hit on. You're going to see all of them mostly going to be like underneath stuff. You got to be able to come up, tackle, and it's fine to give up the underneath stuff. Let's not get overly frustrated if that's the way that we, end up playing these guys. Like I talked about, we ran a lot of cover 3 last year, which is a deeper coverage and short to the outside that's going to be open. We're giving them that. We've got to give something on every single play. That's just how defense works. So I would actually, if this works, then that just works. But I would rather us just run quarters coverage, keep everyone deep, and try to keep us from getting isolated as much. Now, one of the other things that I'll point to is if you ever get a cornerback isolated in man-to-man coverage, especially bump and run coverage, which means that they're pressing up at the line of scrimmage, they're going to throw it deep. That's one of the staples of this offense. It's almost like a guarantee. So I'd say about 90+% of the time, if the offense ever sees that, it doesn't matter what the play call was, that's an automatic, hey, we're going to try this, right? So we have to be careful with that. I'm sure that our secondary players will know that. Coach Heupel should tell them that. Now, with all that being said, this is some of the good stuff that our defense did versus their offense last year. It was a whole lot of it, man. The pressure rate was at 48.6%, almost at 50%, which just means that almost half of the times they drop back to pass the football, we're close to getting sacks. We only generated 4, and part of that's going to be just because, their quarterback, very mobile last season, this year not as mobile, pretty good pocket presence. You have to maintain the pass rushing lane, so on and so forth. But it's going to be imperative that we can close better and finish once we get to the quarterback. And I think that if we can do that, especially by limiting their looks down the field, like we saw with our own offense last season, a lot of times people are like, oh, well, this quarterback can't process, this is going on, that's going on. Really what it was is down the field, everything is totally covered up. So we had to hold on to the football, and that, kind of hurt us with getting sacked. I think that we could do the same thing if Coach Banks wants to come out and run that just like really, really deep coverage, like just try to mimic what Arkansas did to us. I think that we should be perfectly fine. As long as we can slow down the run with a lighter box, as long as we can tackle out in space, that's the biggest things for our defense in this game. But I do have a lot of confidence. I would love to hear y'all's thoughts down in that comments section. But as always, y'all, please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. We might be coming back and talking to y'all a little bit later on today, but if not, then we'll be talking to y'all tomorrow. Thanks. Peace. Thanks for watching. And please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel because that keeps us growing inside of the YouTube algorithm. And if you did like this video, here's another one that you might also enjoy. Thank you. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.